The title of this story should be How My Kidnapping Victim Became My Fiancée. My name is Ethan Hayes, and I'm officially the worst kidnapper in America. My first ever job, and I snatched the wrong girl. I was aiming for the daughter of a tech billionaire. Instead, I ended up with a pink-haired drama queen who called herself the Taco Bell. And then it got weirder. Her father called me and said, "Good work, $500 a day cash. Keep her." So now, instead of writing ransom notes, my days are spent binge-watching shows, ordering pizza, and trailing a spoiled heiress through them all. I've gone from kidnapper to glorified babysitter. My ransom has turned into a salary. It was all going bizarrely well until the day a real kidnapper showed up. "Hey, pal, you looking to sell your hostage?" I instinctively pulled the heiress behind me. "No way. She still owes me my year-end bonus." "I have your sister, Chloe Sullivan. Give me $1 million. Get lost." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, completely bewildered. I turned to the pink-haired girl tied loosely to a chair in my sad little hideout. "Is your brother deaf?" I said I kidnapped you, and he told me to get lost. Chloe Sullivan blew a massive pink bubble with her gum. It popped loudly. "Don't mind him. That's just Marcus being Marcus. You need a new plan." "What kind of plan?" "Kidnapping is so boring." Her eyes lit up with a mischievous gleam. "You pretend to kidnap me, I'll play along, and we'll scam my brother out of his money. We split it 70-30 when we get it." "Okay, fine, 60-40. I just stared. In 3 years of small-time cons, this was the first time a victim had offered to become a co-conspirator. "Aren't you the heiress to the Sullivan tech empire? You're short on cash." She rolled her eyes. "Duh. My brother only gives me a $50,000 a month allowance. That barely covers a new handbag." I felt a sharp pain in my chest, right where my empty wallet was. "So are you in or out?" She leaned forward, the rope doing little to restrain her. "My brother adores me. For a real kidnapping, he'd cough up $5 million easy. We put on a good show. You walk away with $2 million. I get 3. Win-win." I fell into a deep, philosophical silence. 3 minutes later, I was untying her ropes. "Deal." Chloe rubbed her wrists and whipped out her phone. "Okay, first, let's get a group chat going on WhatsApp. We'll call it, how about Project Payday?" I watched as she added 3 people to the chat. Me, herself, and someone saving her contacts as Sucker Brother. "Wait, your brother is in the group chat?" "Of course. Makes negotiating the ransom so much easier." She grinned like a fox. "We have to be professional about this, Ethan." At 8 o'clock that night, the first official meeting of Project Payday commenced. Marcus Sullivan typed in the chat, "You really want $1 million?" I typed back, "That's right. Used, non-sequential bills." Marcus, "Too much work. I'll wire it." Me, Rule 3 of the Kidnapper's Handbook, no wire transfers. Chloe chimed in, "Come on, Marcus, play along. It's his first kidnapping. Give the man some dramatic flair." "Marcus, fine. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. The old steel mill on the south side." The plan was going perfectly, until I got up for a glass of water in the middle of the night and heard Chloe on the balcony, her voice a low murmur on the phone. "Yeah, he bought it. Be there on time tomorrow. And remember, make it look convincing." The next day, at 2 p.m., I arrived at the abandoned steel mill early. Chloe was tied, symbolically, to a support pillar with a slip knot she could break free from with a single tug. "Remember the plan?" I reminded her. "Your brother hands over the money. I count it, you make a run for it, and I pretend I can't catch you." "Got it." She winked. "Don't worry. I'm a professional." At 2:50, 3 black SUVs rolled into the mill. The doors opened, but it wasn't Marcus who got out. It was 8 massive guys in black suits. The one in the lead, a bald mountain of a man, was carrying a silver briefcase, but he was looking at me like I was already dead. Something was very wrong. "You bring the money?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Baldy didn't answer. He just waved a hand. 2 of his goons started walking straight toward Chloe. "Hey, money first." I stepped in front of them. Baldy chuckled. "Nice try, kid. But Miss Sullivan hired us to tie up a loose end." My brain went into overdrive. I whipped around to look at Chloe. She had an expression of pure innocence on her face. "Sorry, Ethan. I changed my mind. Why split the money with you when I can pay these guys 50 grand to make you disappear and keep the whole 5 million for myself?" but your brother was only bringing 1 million. I lied about that part, she said with a sickeningly sweet smile. My brother's standing offer for my safe return is 5 million. And technically, you didn't even kidnap me. I walked right up to you at that coffee shop yesterday, remember? I did remember. She'd slid into the booth across from me and said, I hear you're looking for a mark. I think I'd be perfect. Baldy waved his hand again. Take care of him. I turned and bolted. I didn't get 2 steps before the sound of sirens filled the air. Cops swarmed the place just as I dove behind a rusted piece of machinery. Freeze! Police! I obediently put my hands in the air. Chloe and her hired goons looked just as stunned as I was. A veteran cop surveyed the scene. We got a call about a kidnapping in progress. Chloe immediately snapped into character. Officer! Oh, thank God. Save me. I've been kidnapped. Her eyes welled up with tears on command. The girl's acting was Emmy-worthy. Who kidnapped you? The cop asked. Chloe pointed a trembling finger straight at me. Him. I had nothing. No defense. No alibi. Just then, another car screeched to a halt outside. Marcus Sullivan stepped out, immaculate in a tailored suit and gold-rimmed glasses, holding an iPad. Officers, there's been a misunderstanding, he said with a calm smile. This is just my sister and her friends shooting a TikTok video. The lead cop frowned. A video? Yes. A little web series called Worst Criminals Ever. Marcus tapped his iPad, which sure enough had a script on the screen. See? We even filed the proper permits. I craned my neck to see. The first page read, Characters: Ethan the idiot, kidnapper; Chloe, damsel in distress; Sullivan security staff, scary goons. The police looked skeptical. Marcus handed over his business card. I'm Marcus Sullivan, CEO of Sullivan Tech. This is my sister. Our company is getting into short-form content creation, and these are all actors we hired. I seized the opportunity and nodded vigorously. Yeah, that's right. I'm a drama student, just trying to make a little extra cash. The cop glanced from us to the giant goons, who had somehow managed to morph their menacing scowls into dopey, harmless smiles. All right, pack it up, the cop finally said with a wave. After the squad cars pulled away, an awkward silence descended upon the factory. Marcus adjusted his glasses and looked at his sister. Have you had enough fun? Chloe pouted. What are you doing here, Marcus? If I hadn't come, were you actually going to have him killed? Marcus then turned his attention to me. Ethan Hayes, right? I ran a background check on you. A history of insurance scams and petty fraud, but nothing major. How much did my sister offer you to play along with this? I told him the truth. A promise of a $2 million cut. Marcus actually smiled. I have a better offer. I'll give you a job. $20,000 a month, full benefits for 1K, room and board included. What's the job? Watch my sister, Marcus said. Make sure she doesn't pull any more stunts like this. Before I could answer, Chloe jumped up. I don't agree to this. Your vote doesn't count. Marcus looked back at me. So, are you in? I hesitated for 3 seconds. I'm in. Chloe stared at me, her eyes wide with betrayal, and stomped her foot. Marcus nodded, satisfied, and turned to leave. Suddenly, a slow, deliberate clap echoed from the second-floor catwalk. A figure wearing a white fox mask emerged from the shadows. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The voice was distorted, impossible to identify as male or female. A masterful move, Mr. Sullivan. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone. You discipline your sister, recruit her kidnapper, and whitewash the whole embarrassing affair. Marcus's expression didn't change. Who are you? Who I am isn't important. The masked figure descended the stairs. What's important is that I know why Miss Sullivan staged this little drama. Chloe's face paled, because she needed a large sum of money. Money that couldn't be traced through official channels. The figure chuckled. $5 million is more than enough to buy a DNA sample on the black market, isn't it? Marcus snapped his head toward his sister. What DNA sample? Chloe bit her lips, silent. The figure continued. Miss Sullivan suspects she isn't a true Sullivan. She wanted to run a secret paternity test, but was afraid of alerting the family. So she came up with this elaborate, if foolish, plan. This was better than reality TV. My eyes were wide. Marcus's face was grim. Chloe, is this true? Chloe looked down. Last year, in Dad's study, I found an old medical file. It said Mom's blood type is O, and Dad's is But I'm AB. So you thought you weren't their biological daughter? Marcus pinched the bridge of his nose. You misread the file. That was your grandmother's blood type. Chloe froze. Oh. The masked figure clapped again. So touching. A real family moment. But Mr. Sullivan, are you sure you want to air your dirty laundry in public? Marcus's voice turned to ice. What do you want? I want the data for Sullivan Tech's new Starfall project, the figure said casually. A fair trade for your sister's little secret, don't you think? It finally clicked. This wasn't a kidnapping drama. It was corporate espionage. Then Marcus laughed. Fox, do you know why I chose this location for the exchange? He asked. The masked figure paused. Marcus snapped his fingers. Instantly, metal shutters slammed down over every window. The main doors boomed shut, and the lights cut out, plunging us into darkness. In the black, Marcus's voice was crystal clear. Because here, I have a home field advantage. When emergency lights flickered on, the factory floor was filled with 24 tactical security guards. The few henchmen the masked figure had brought were already silently neutralized on the ground. You knew, the figure stammered, taking a step back, from the moment you first contacted Chloe. Marcus smiled. My sister could be a handful, but she's not stupid enough to actually try buying DNA on the black market. That underground contact she was messaging on her phone, that was you, wasn't it? Chloe's eyes widened. Marcus, you were monitoring my phone? I was protecting you, he corrected, and using you as bait to catch a bigger fish. The figure suddenly ripped off the mask. It was a plain-looking woman in her 30s, the kind of person you'd never notice in a crowd. Karen, Chloe gasped. You're my brother's executive assistant. Former assistant, Karen snarled. 3 months ago, your brother fired me for a fresh-faced college grad. That was because you were leaking company secrets. Marcus began. That was a setup. Karen screamed. I gave you 5 years of my life. 5 years. The corporate espionage plot had officially devolved into a soap opera. I started to quietly edge toward the door. Ethan, Marcus said, pointing at me. Grab her. Huh? Me? I'll raise your salary to $30,000 a month, he added. I immediately lunged at Karen and was immediately flipped onto my back by a perfect hip throw. Turns out corporate spies are a lot tougher than they look. By the time I scrambled back to my feet, Karen had Chloe in a chokehold, a small, silver pistol suddenly in her hand. Nobody move, she shrieked. Give me the Starfall data, or she dies. For the first time, Marcus's cool composure cracked. Just then, my cheap burner phone erupted from my pocket. The blaring, twangy sound of Fiancée like on a Friday night shattered the tension. Everyone stared at me. I sheepishly pulled out the phone. Hello. My mom's voice boomed through the speaker. Ethan, the girl for your blind date is at the coffee shop. Where are you? Oh, right. I had a blind date at 3 o'clock. Mom, I'm a little busy right now. What could possibly be more important than settling down? She roared. She said she's waiting 10 more minutes, and then she's leaving. I glanced at the situation. A hostage, a crazed ex-employee with a gun, 24 tactical guards, and a grim-faced EO. Mom, I might be a little late. When I hung up, everyone was still staring at me. Karen actually laughed. Ethan Hayes, you know why I chose you to be the patsy in this scheme? I shook my head. Because you're so easy to control, she said, her eyes filled with pity. A fool so desperate for money he'd try kidnapping. A mama's boy who's too scared to stand up his mom for a blind date. Okay, that felt a little personal. Suddenly, Chloe spoke up, her voice slightly strained from the chokehold. Karen, do you know why I chose him? Karen blinked. Because he's not a fool, Chloe said with a smirk. He was my senior at the police academy. Graduated top of his class in criminal investigation. He took an early retirement last year after an injury, and now he worked for my brother as my personal bodyguard. Me? Marcus nodded solemnly. It's true. Ethan, I've had your service record for months. My brain was a complete mess. So I wasn't a kidnapper, not a temp worker, but a pre-assigned bodyguard all along? Then why didn't anybody tell me? I yelled, completely bewildered. For authenticity, Chloe shrugged. If you knew you were a bodyguard, you could never have played the part of the bumbling kidnapper so convincingly. Karen's hand was shaking. You two were playing me the whole time. You got it, Marcus said, and gave a signal. The tactical team surged forward. In the chaos, the gun went off. The last thought I had as I hit the floor was, damn it, there goes another blind date. I woke up with a tube in my nose. The ceiling was white, the air smelled of antiseptic, and was that crying? I turned my head. Chloe was slumped over the side of my bed, her eyes as red and swollen as ripe peaches. You're awake, she yelped, jumping up and slamming the call button. Doctor, he's awake. 5 minutes later, I was surrounded by a swarm of white coats. The verdict: a bullet had grazed my ribs. I'd lost some blood, but I was lucky. The patient needs complete rest, the head doctor announced. No emotional distress. After they left, it was just me and Chloe in the room. So, I said, my voice raspy. What were you crying about? Who was crying? She shot back, wiping her eyes furiously. I got some sand in my eye. Where would you get sand in a hospital room? I brought it with me, okay? Is that a problem? Nope. You're the boss. After a few minutes of silence, I asked, what happened to Karen? She's in custody, Chloe said with a pout. She fired the gun, but she claimed she was just trying to shoot the ceiling to scare everyone. She says you stood up right into the bullet's path. I thought back. Karen's hand had been shaking violently, the gun pointed up. I had been trying to stand up and tackle her. So I basically shot myself with my own stupidity? As I was stewing in that depressing thought, the door opened. Marcus came in carrying a fruit basket that looked more expensive than my entire wardrobe. How are you feeling? He asked. Okay. I paused. Mr. Sullivan, about this whole bodyguard thing. That. Marcus set down the basket. That wasn't entirely true either. I was lost again. You did graduate from the police academy, and you were honorably discharged after an injury, Marcus said, adjusting his glasses. But everything you did after that, the insurance scams, the petty fraud, this kidnapping attempt, that was all real. So I'm not your pre-assigned bodyguard? No. Marcus smiled. But Chloe did choose you because she'd seen your file. She figured you weren't a bad person, just broke, and that you'd be a manageable partner in crime. I looked at Chloe. She nodded. My brother didn't like the idea at first, but I convinced him. How? I told him if he didn't let me work with you, I'd go find a real, dangerous kidnapper. Chloe said it like it was the most logical thing in the world. He figured you were the safer option. I didn't know whether to feel touched or insulted. So what now? I asked. Am I an accomplice to attempted fraud, or a bodyguard injured in the line of duty? You're a probationary employee, Marcus said. Once you've recovered, you'll be officially hired by Sullivan Tech's Executive Protection Division. $50,000 a month, company car, corporate apartment. You'll be in charge of my sister's security. $50,000 a month. My eyes lit up. Deal. Chloe muttered from the side. He bought you for 50 grand. So cheap. Just then, the door swung open again. A woman in a Chanel power suit with flawless makeup strode in, flanked by 2 assistants. Mom. Chloe stood up. Marcus straightened his tie. What are you doing here? Mrs. Sullivan, Eleanor, the true power behind the Sullivan Empire, swept her gaze over me like an X-ray scanner. This is the kidnapper? Her tone was glacial. He's a bodyguard now, Marcus explained. Eleanor walked to my bedside, looking down at me. How are the injuries? Fine. Can you get out of bed? The doctor said, I need to rest. Then never mind. She turned to Marcus. Next month's family gala. Bring him. Marcus blinked. The gala? Why? Eleanor didn't answer. She gave me one last, piercing look and swept out of the room as quickly as she had arrived. That's just my mom, Chloe said quietly. Don't mind her. Oh, I didn't mind. I was just terrified. The family gala? For a former kidnapper? This felt less like an invitation and more like I was being summoned to the lion's den. A month later, I was standing at the entrance to the Sullivan family estate, wearing a rented tuxedo. The place was less of a house and more of a castle. Chloe was on my arm, a standard bodyguard posture, she claimed, but it felt suspiciously like a date. The ballroom was teeming with the 1%. I saw CEOs from the covers of Forbes and a couple of movie stars. Nervous? Chloe asked. A little, I admitted. Just stick with me. She handed me a glass of champagne. But don't drink too much. If someone tries to assassinate me, I need you to be sharp. I immediately put the glass down. The party was buffet style, but I was too scared to eat. The tiny appetizers looked like works of art, and I was afraid I'd owe them my first 3 months' salary if I ate one. Eleanor gave a speech from a small stage, her eyes sweeping over me more than once. I felt a chill run down my spine. When she finished, Marcus appeared at my side. "My mother wants to see you." "In the study." "Here we go." The study was like a university library, all dark wood and leather-bound books. Eleanor was sitting behind a massive desk, reviewing a file. "Sit," she said without looking up. "E set." After a few minutes, she closed the file and took off her glasses. Ethan Hayes, 24 years old, police academy dropout, father deceased, mother runs a small convenience store back home. She recited my life story from memory. "After your discharge, you worked as a delivery driver, security guard, and movie extra. Your most recent employment was kidnapper." My palm started to sweat. "Do you know why I asked you here?" she asked. I shook my head. "Because Chloe likes you." I nearly fell out of the chair. "Mrs. Sullivan, you're mistaken. The young miss and I are just—" "I know," she cut me off. "It's not romantic. She thinks you're amusing, like a stray dog she picked up off the street." That stung, but it was probably accurate. "But that's enough," Eleanor continued. "Chloe has never had any real friends. Everyone who gets close to her either wants our influence or our money. You're the first one to want our money so shamelessly." I couldn't tell if that was a compliment or an insult. "So I want to hire you," she said. "Not as a bodyguard, as a friend. Keep her entertained, go along with her schemes, but keep her out of real danger. $1 million a year. How does that sound?" My head was spinning. $1 million a year just to be Chloe's professional friend? Why? Why me? I stammered. "Because you're not a phony." Eleanor's gaze was sharp. "All those heirs from other wealthy families are polished on the surface, but they're all snakes underneath. You're different. You want money, you say it. That kind of person is much easier to control." I was silent. "You can think about it," she said, "but be warned. If you accept, you can't back out. Being a friend of the Sullivan family is not a temporary position." Just then, the study door burst open. Chloe stormed in, her face flushed. "Mom, are you threatening him?" "I'm discussing a job offer," Eleanor said calmly. "What kind of job offer happens behind a locked door?" Chloe grabbed my arm. "Come on, we're leaving." She dragged me out of the study. On the way downstairs, she whispered, "Don't listen to her. Just be yourself. If you want the job, take it. If you don't, walk away." A warmth spread through my chest. Then she added, "Besides, if you leave, I'll just find someone who listens to me better." Never mind. The warmth was gone. Back in the ballroom, a young man in a white tuxedo intercepted us. "Chloe, who is this?" he asked, eyeing me with disdain. "My bodyguard," Chloe said coolly. "A bodyguard?" The man smirked. "You bring a bodyguard to a family party? You're still so paranoid, Chloe." "It's none of your business, Landon." Landon Pierce. I'd heard the name. Heir to the Pierce conglomerate and Chloe's rumored fiancé. He turned to me. "Mr. Bodyguard, could I have a word?" We stepped out onto the balcony. Landon offered me a cigarette, which I declined. "Ethan Hayes, right?" He lit his own. "I know all about you. Name your price." "Leave Chloe Sullivan." Ah, the classic scene. "Mr. Pierce, I'm just an employee," I said. "I go where my boss tells me to go." 500,000, he said, blowing a smoke ring. "My boss's offer is better. $1 million. Still not enough." Landon crushed his cigarette against the railing. "Do you have any idea what happens to people who cross the Pierce family?" "I do," he nodded. "But I imagine what happens to people who cross the Sullivan family is worse. And faster." He stared at me for a second, then broke into a grin. "Interesting. You're more fun than the usual hired muscle." Just then, a scream erupted from the ballroom. We rushed back inside to find a waiter collapsed on the floor, foaming at the mouth. In his hand was the very champagne glass Chloe had just set down. Chaos. Marcus immediately locked down the estate, called the police and an ambulance. The waiter was dead before he was carried out. The cops arrived. The champagne was laced with cyanide, a lethal dose. The target was Chloe, Marcus said, his face a mask of fury. "Someone wants her dead." Eleanor stood nearby, her expression calm, but her fingers trembled slightly. Landon stepped forward. "And Eleanor, if the Pierce family can be of any assistance." "That won't be necessary," she said coldly. "The Sullivans handle their own affairs." The police determined it had to be an inside job. All the staff were questioned. As the person closest to Chloe when it happened, I was interrogated for over an hour. It was dawn by the time they let me go. The guests were confined to guest rooms until the investigation was over. I was sitting on the sofa in my assigned room, my mind racing. Someone was trying to kill Chloe. A knock on the door. It was Chloe, dressed in pajamas and hugging a pillow, her eyes red. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Can I stay here for a while?" I let her in. She sat on the edge of the bed. "Ethan, do you think it was one of Karen's old associates?" "Karen's in a supermax prison. An associate getting revenge is possible, but to pull this off inside the Sullivan estate, they had to have help from someone on the inside." "You mean there's a traitor in my family?" I didn't answer. After a moment, Chloe asked, and this is just a hypothetical, "If someone offered you more money to kill me, would you do it?" "No." "Why not?" "I thought you loved money." "I love money," I said seriously, "but I love not being on death row more. It's a bad return on investment." She smiled. "You're so practical." "Miss Sullivan, have you seriously ticked anyone off lately?" I asked. She thought for a moment. "Last month, I bought the last limited edition handbag that a board member's daughter wanted. The week before that, I won 300 grand off of some guy at the horse races. Last week, I turned down a marriage proposal from another board member's son. I put my head in my hands. Your list of enemies is a bit long. But those are just petty things," she said, looking wounded. "Not exactly poison in the champagne worthy, right?" As she spoke, there was another knock on the door. It was Marcus. He glanced at Chloe. "Go back to your room." "No. I need to speak with Ethan. Alone." Chloe left reluctantly. Marcus closed the door behind her. "The poison was meant for you." I froze. "What?" After Chloe put her glass down, a waiter refilled it. Marcus said, "But someone swapped the glasses. The first glass, the one with the poison, was intended for Chloe. The second glass was intended for you." A cold dread crept up my spine. "Why would someone want to kill me?" "Because you're in the way," Marcus said, his eyes fixed on me. "Someone doesn't want you near my sister." "Who?" "I'm not sure yet," Marcus said, "but I have a suspect." He handed me a photograph. It was of a young man in a police uniform who looked startlingly like me. "Who's this?" I asked. "Ryan Hayes. Your older brother," Marcus said slowly. "He was killed in the line of duty 5 years ago. The operation he was on involved one of my family's business rivals." My hand started to shake. My brother. You didn't know?" Marcus frowned. "Your mother never told you?" "After my dad died, my mom never talked about the past," I said, my voice hoarse. "She told me my brother died from a sickness." "Your brother was an undercover cop," Marcus said. "His death is connected to my family, which is why someone might think he got close to Chloe for revenge." My world tilted on its axis. So I wasn't just some random schmuck. I was deliberately led to Chloe. "Who?" I demanded. "Who sent me up to kidnap her?" Marcus shook his head. "That's what I'd like to know." At that moment, my burner phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. A distorted voice came through the speaker. "Ethan Hayes. Want to know how your brother really died?" "You're telling me my brother was an undercover cop?" "Correct." "He was a police officer?" "Correct." "He died in the line of duty?" "Correct." I was silent for a full minute. Then I said, "Then why did my mom tell me he went to Africa to mine for diamonds and died of malaria?" For the first time since I'd met him, Marcus Sullivan's perfect, composed face cracked. "What?" "She said he went to Africa, got sick, and sent back one last diamond before he died." I pulled a cheap cord from around my neck. A glassy-looking rock was tied to it. "See? This is it." Marcus took the diamond and held it up to the light for 3 seconds. "This is a glass crystal. You can buy them at a street fair, 3 for $10. Now I was silent. The voice on the phone crackled back to life. "Dude, your mom's cover story is pretty weak." "Who is this?" I yelled into the phone. "This is your brother's old partner, Detective Miller." The voice switched back to normal. "Your brother really was an undercover cop. He died 5 years ago during Operation Fox Hunt." "Then why are you only telling me this now?" "Because the case wasn't closed," Miller sighed. "The organization your brother infiltrated was only recently dismantled. We can finally tell you the truth. I processed this." "So, my brother's death was connected to the Sullivan family?" "Connected, but it wasn't their fault," Miller said. "Sullivan Tech was being extorted by that organization. Your brother blew his cover protecting their core technology. In a way, he's a hero who saved their company." Marcus nodded. "Which is why I hired you to protect Chloe. Call it paying a debt. You could have just told me that." I practically shrieked. Why the elaborate setup with the kidnapping and the poison? I thought I was about to star in my own revenge thriller. Chloe burst through the door. She'd obviously been listening the whole time. "So you're not here for revenge?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. "Revenge for what? I didn't even know my brother was a cop." I was losing my mind. I was just trying to make enough money to help my mom upgrade her convenience store. With the truth out, the atmosphere turned profoundly awkward. Just then, we heard a commotion from downstairs. We ran to the window. A dozen men in black were scaling the walls of the estate. "Now what?" I asked, completely bewildered. "Probably remnants of that criminal organization," Marcus said, frowning. "They know you're Ryan's brother. They want to use you as a hostage." My knees went weak. Dude, I didn't even know the guy. We haven't seen each other in 10 years. "Blood is blood." Marcus pulled out a walkie-talkie. "Security team, engage." What happened next was like something out of an action movie. Sullivan family bodyguards materialized from every shadow, clashing with the intruders. The three of us watched from the second floor. "Shouldn't we call the cops?" I asked. "Already did. They're stuck in traffic," Marcus said calmly. "So we just watch?" "Nope." Marcus handed me a water gun. "What's this?" "High-pressure pepper spray gun. My sister's design. She wanted to feel involved." I looked at Chloe, who puffed out her chest proudly. I even named them. "Mine is the Pink Panther. Yours is the Blue Meanie." While a full-scale brawl was happening below, the three of us were on the second-floor landing, taking pot shots with pepper spray. And you know what? It worked surprisingly well. One of the intruders got a face full and screamed, "What the hell? Who uses pepper spray in a fist fight?" Chloe yelled back, "I do. Got a problem with it?" The intruder looked up, saw us, and started charging up the stairs. "Run!" Marcus grabbed us and pulled us toward the third floor. The door was locked. We were trapped on the landing. "Now what?" I asked, clutching my water gun. Marcus thought for a second. "Chloe, cry." "Huh." "Cry. Loudly. Create a distraction." Chloe took 3 seconds to get into character, then let out a heart-wrenching wail. "Marcus, Ethan, don't die. I promise I'll stop wasting money. I'll sell all my handbags and donate the money to charity." It was a truly convincing, Oscar-worthy performance. The intruders paused for a crucial second. In that second, police sirens wailed outside. The cavalry had finally arrived. The intruders tried to flee, but it was too late. 10 minutes later, they were all in cuffs. Detective Miller was leading the raid. He walked over and clapped me on the shoulder. "Not bad with that pepper spray, kid." I felt a little embarrassed. I'm no match for my brother. "If your brother saw you now..." Miller looked me up and down. "He'd probably claw his way out of his grave just to smack you." I had no response to that. With the crisis over, the Sullivan estate was in ruins. Eleanor stood amidst the wreckage, directing the cleanup crew like a 5-star general. Landon Pierce appeared out of nowhere. "And Eleanor, if you need any help with the repairs, the Pierce family has the best contractors." "Not necessary," Eleanor said, barely glancing at him. "By the way, where were you hiding during all that?" I was securing important assets." Landon produced a box. "See? I saved the Ming Dynasty vase." The guy was worried about antiques while his life was on the line. Chloe leaned in and whispered to me, "See? That's why I don't like him. He's cheap." Later, we all sat in the one part of the living room that hadn't been destroyed, eating instant ramen. The kitchen was wrecked. "So who was the poisoner?" I asked. "We found out," Marcus said, slurping his noodles. "It was arranged by the Pierce family." "What?" Landon, who had lingered, jumped to his feet. "Don't you dare slander my family, Marcus. Your father has been trying to execute a hostile takeover of our company. He was afraid if you married Chloe, her shares would dilute his power, so he decided to remove her from the equation," Marcus said coldly. "That waiter was a plant from your family. We have the recordings." Landon's face went white. Eleanor put down her cup of noodles. "Landon, go home and tell your father that all business partnerships between the Sullivan and Pierce families are hereby terminated." Landon scurried away. Chloe cheered. "Yes, no more arranged marriage." I whispered to her, "So you agreed to the engagement just to smoke out the snake?" She winked. I suspected the Pierces were up to something. My brother said we had no proof, so I decided to make a little sacrifice for the family. This whole family was made of actors. After we finished our ramen, Detective Miller said he needed to take me down to the station to give a statement. As I was leaving, Chloe grabbed my arm. "Are you coming back?" Back where? Here, obviously, she said. You know my brother is your brother's benefactor, and I'm his sister, so by the transitive property, I'm your benefactor. And when your benefactor tells you to be her bodyguard, you can't say no. Her logic was flawless. What about my salary? I asked. 1.2 million a year, she said, holding up 2 fingers. 200 grand more than my mom offered. Deal. 3 months later, I was standing on the top floor of the Sullivan Tech Tower, wearing a custom-tailored suit. I was now Chloe's official bodyguard and professional companion. Ethan, you're coming with me to an art auction this afternoon. Chloe called from her office. Can't. I have to give a speech at the police academy today, I said, checking my schedule. The topic is my journey from kidnapper to bodyguard. What about tonight? Video call with my mom. She's trying to set me up on another blind date. Chloe pouted. Again? Didn't the last one dump you because your job is too dangerous? This one's a cop, I shrugged. She says she likes dangerous. Chloe was silent for a few seconds. Don't go. Why? Because, she said, looking away, my brother says that employee relationships hurt productivity. Just then, Marcus walked by. He stopped. I never said that. Well, you're saying it now. Chloe glared at him. Marcus looked at me, then at his sister. A look of understanding dawned on his face. Oh, in that case, I am officially announcing a new company policy. We encourage inter-office romance, especially between executives and their bodyguards. There's even a relationship bonus. Chloe's face turned beet red. It took my brain a moment, but it finally clicked. Miss Sullivan, are you trying to tell me you? Shut up, she shrieked, throwing a decorative pillow at me. Say one more word, and I'm docking your pay. I caught the pillow and smiled. My phone rang. It was my mom. Ethan, honey, cancel the date. I had your fortune told, and it says your soulmate is right there beside you. She's from a wealthy family, but she has a bit of a temper. I looked over at Chloe, who was trying to pretend she wasn't listening. Mom, I said into the phone, for once, your fortune teller is spot on. I hung up. Chloe was busy shuffling papers on her desk. What did your mom say? She said my life has a U-shaped hole in it. Chloe's hand slipped, and a stack of papers fluttered to the floor. I knelt to help her pick them up. When I looked up, she was smiling like a kid who'd just been given the whole candy store. Well, she said softly, since you're so desperately in need, I suppose I can fill that hole for you. The sun streamed through the window. Who would have thought? One failed kidnapping had landed me a job, a girl, and the truth about a heroic brother I barely knew. Of course, if my brother ever found out I was using the advanced combat techniques he taught me to act as a human punching bag for spoiled heiress, he'd probably come back from the dead just to strangle me. But that's okay. If he does, I'll just explain it to him. It's not selling out, bro. It's just a creative way of paying a debt. End.